Hi, this is Ewen. Today is a good day since it's sunny outside. I thought it would be great to use this natural sunlight to record a short video on something that I had promised. I promised that I would do a short video on the props, yoga props, that I use in my own personal home practice, as well as the props that I use in class with students. There will be some props that you may not have seen before, so I'm excited to introduce to you what I use and how I use those. But let's start with the very obvious ones, which would be the blocks and the strap. When I started doing yoga, especially my lineage of yoga, Ashtangis, in the past, I'm not sure about now since I don't practice Ashtanga anymore, but in the past there was very little use of props, probably not at all. I can't even remember it. So you basically just, sometimes you stress out the body quite a bit because you don't have a support system. Sometimes you just need them, external support system. And so when the props came into the scene, and that was, I don't even know how long, maybe 15 years ago, they came into the scene, maybe longer. I was really happy because the blocks and the strap, they really support the integrity of the practice by helping you create a good support system to pay attention to the discipline and the integrity of the spine, the hips, the shoulders, maybe even sometimes the neck. Neck is part of the spine. So I was really happy that they came into the scene. So today I want to show you the blocks that I recommend, that I prefer. Some students ask me for some product recommendations. So I will include the link below the video of where I bought it on Amazon. I get most of my things from Amazon. Most of my things. So these are my blocks, and these are also the blocks that I use at the studio. I have a set of some brown ones at the studio and some black ones. I like this particular one, and they're pretty cheap too, is that it gives you good density, meaning that when I press on it, when I press on the block, it's not so soft and cushy. I don't like those for the reasons and for the ways in which I use my blocks. So the cushy ones, they don't work for my practice, and they don't work for the classes that I teach. So I recommend something like this. Cork blocks are great, but cork blocks, they're not something that I would use in a studio setting where there's a lot of people using them, because it's really hard to wipe the cork blocks down. However, if you want to get cork blocks for your home, I think that's perfect. Some of the cork blocks I felt is a bit too hard, so you want to kind of read the description to make sure that you pick some cork blocks that's not so hard like a rock, because especially when you use your blocks to rest later on in Shavasana, you want something that's got a little bit more cushion than just hard rocks. Okay. Oh, also with the blocks, you want to make sure you don't buy blocks. You don't get blocks that's got straight edges where two sides come together and make that pointy corner edge, because when we're resting our weight on the block, sometimes you can just feel the edges poke into your body, into your muscles, into your spine, into your bones, none of which feels good. So make sure that you get either more of a rounded side or something that's kind of cut off. So I've got a small flat surface cut off like that. That would just make your resting postures onto the blocks a lot more comfortable. Okay, so the main reason, at least the way I like to use the blocks, and I have my students use the blocks, is to create that extension in the spine. Primarily in the front side of the spine. Most of the time people practice like this, right? So let me stand up. Most of the time people practice, like if they're in the standing forward fold, they'll be like this. They'll be like this, reaching for dear life towards the feet. And they have no support system. And sometimes it's even worse if you can touch the feet, yet your back is like this. When your back is like this, rounded, and your legs are straight, you're not even willing to bend your knees. You need these blocks to get you from this position to this position. Okay? But if you're really tight on the back side of your legs, your glutes, or even your back, you're not going to be able to keep your legs straight and to keep your spine straight. So what I would ask for the students to do is first consider bending the knees. Once you bend the knees, you start to create less taxation onto your spine. Then you can be able to open it up this way. Okay? But sometimes it gets a little tiring, especially when we go from here into a spinal twist posture. You want to then grab your blocks. So let's say I'm going to do a twist here. I'm going to put my block, depending on your rotation of the twist. Let me stay sideways. Depending on how much rotation you have in your twist, you might want to have your block right at the center line here, or lined up with the left foot. So if I'm twisting to the right, I might want to line the block up to the left foot, or if you have enough rotation in your spine, you bring it to the center line. Okay? First, I want to make sure that my hips are pretty leveled, and then I put my hand on the block. Your block is not far away from you. Your block is close enough so that when you're pushing your arm straight, your shoulder could be pretty much over the wrist. And then I'm going to make sure I push against the block to open up the front side of the body like this. Then you go into a twist. There you go into a twist without your hips shifting from side to side. So what's the alternative without a block for someone who's really tight? That's just bending the knees without the block, right? Or to keep practicing in a way that is harmful for your body, which will be a twist looking like this. I'm sure we've all seen that in yoga classes before. It's pretty common. Every yoga studio you go to, every class you go to, not mine, but most of the classes, majority of the classes, people do it like this. Their shoulders crunch up and they reach for the floor and they're like this into their twist. Now you want to bend the knees to create less stress into your spine and lengthen out your spine this way, and then you can go to a twist. But a block is better because once you push into the block, you can create that oomph of energy expanding towards the front side of your body, and you go into a twist. Always get 2 blocks. Get a set, at least one set of blocks. Now, some of us were not very disciplined in the hips. So even with the block here underneath the hand, you might do this. Look, bend one knee and the other leg would be straight. You'll be doing like this. This is a hip rotation, a pelvis pivot. It's not a spinal twist. So how do we make sure it's a proper spinal twist? By keeping weight even on the feet and the hips level with each other. Now how do you know when your teacher is not there kind of helping you to stay disciplined in the line? You can grab your other block. Hips are level. I grab my other block and I put that block on the back side of my pelvis, lengthening through the spine, and keep it here, and then you twist. So if you know your hips are starting to pivot, the block might like slowly, oh, my shirt is not letting, this shirt is kind of gripping to the block. But sometimes if you have enough weight of the block and you wear the right clothes, but once you pivot from the hips, that block on your pelvis, which is designed on the pelvis to help you stay disciplined, might just roll off your pelvis. So that's another way you could use the second block for spinal twist. Okay, so sorry for digressing, but the key point, the number one reason why you would use a block is to create an extension on the front side of the body. Okay, so the second reason would be using the block to further open up the front side of the body so we don't go into this position, right? So either you use the blocks actively to lengthen forward, or you could take more of a passive posture, and we do this a lot. It's a soft fish pose. You can put one of your blocks behind on the floor, and you're going to put your shoulder blades on the block, like so. So the block would be between your shoulder blades, and then you grab another block as your pillow. I don't recommend this, where you just drop your head back. It does nothing for you other than creating compression on the back side of your neck. Makes it really hard for your energy to flow without being stuck right there. So I recommend using the second block as your pillow. And you want to set it up where the bottom edge of your block is right on the bottom part of your shoulder blade. Okay, you can set it up vertically or horizontally. It really depends on the size across your chest and how you feel. So this is a passive one where we're also opening up. It's a spinal extension. We try to open up this part of the body, and then we can rest here like this. Okay, so that's both of which are designed to help you create that opening, to help you keep the spine long, especially in the front. Now let's see what are other ways to explore using the blocks. There are so many ways. There's no way that I can go through of all the various techniques in using the block, but we can use the blocks to activate sleepy muscles. So what I mean, when we reach the arms up overhead, sometimes people just go through the motions. They reach their arms up without really turning on enough muscles to get the arms up. So that's when the blocks will come into handy. I usually use one block because the width of one block is pretty much the width across my shoulders, the inner shoulders. They're just a little bit shy of it. But if I add two blocks, it'd be too wide, a little bit too wide, but that's workable too. Okay, so what I do is I grab the block, pushing my hands to the sides of the block pull it forward, squeeze. Once I gently squeeze, nothing overdone, gently squeezing the block, you start to feel the muscles in your arms turn on. More muscles turn on, and then you start to bring your arms up overhead. And this will keep you more disciplined so that we're not just swinging the arms up overhead. And when you have a block and hugging the block with your palms, you're less likely to internally rotate your arm like this when you reach your arms up. When you do this, it will get you so stuck on the backside of your shoulder joints, and it's not desirable, because it blocks, again, it creates that tension in that joint and blocks energy flow. So with this, we can make sure that we don't do anything funny with the rotation of the upper arm bones as we push up. Okay, you keep your shoulders down. Okay, so that's another way of using the blocks. How do you use blocks to activate your legs? Something that we do in class quite a bit is to put the block between the thighs or between the feet, and then you kind of just pull, squeeze, and kind of do leg lifts or pull the knees in to your body like this. We can do a half boat with the block also between the feet. Kind of just squeeze the block. And this also makes sure that you're not sort of just kicking out with the legs. You keep your legs nice and solid. Keep them working as a unit instead of randomly kicking like this. When you hug the block with your feet, your legs move up and down as one. So that adds to the discipline of the practice. Let's see, what are some other ways of using the block? In a pigeon pose. Let's say if I'm really, really tight here, this part, really tight, and I can't press down, or I'm really tight in the hip flexor on the extended leg part, my right leg, then I will use a block and put it underneath my left sit bone and press. Gently, just like anchor your weight on the left sit bone into the block. This is good because it helps you to release the tension that you might be gripping too hard when you're feeling uncomfortable, when you have no support system. This here, without a block here, I have to tense this up just so that I don't kind of just drop off like this. And that becomes too stressful, especially for a pigeon pose. You want to have a block, put it here, and anchor your weight down. Once your weight is anchored down, you can kind of just soften the grip until it's almost gone, until it's completely gone. You kind of just soften the grip. Good, so that's another way of using the block. So that block position underneath the sit bone is for people who are really pretty tight, okay? So for people who are not that tight, but could still use some support, oh, I forgot to bring my blanket in. You would just roll up a blanket, the yoga blanket that we see in the studios, roll it up and determine the right height of the blanket, put it underneath your sit bone, and use that as support. What are some ways that another way to make sure that we're not kind of loosey-goosey in working through the pose. Sometimes I have students in class put a block, I got a ponytail right here, but I would have them put a block on the forehead like this. I don't know if I stand up. If I stand up, if my head would be cut off from the camera, I'm not sure. But let's say I'm standing. I'd be standing here, and then I would lift one leg up at a time, And, you know, just kind of creating that discipline through the pose so that we're not kind of just swinging from side to side. This helps us to cultivate that sense of awareness, that quality of mindfulness, the quality of being present here, focusing very, very, very intently on the task at hand. That actually would help you relax your nervous system, because then you're not thinking 1,000 thoughts in the same moment, and that gets really stressful. Okay, so I think I've said enough about the blocks for at least this video. Let's move to the strap. Like I said, I'll put the links on the bottom of the video so you can see what brands that I bought. And this strap, actually I bought this as a set. So this strap came with these blocks, and I really like it because it gives you, it's a longer strap. There are some studios, like the studio that I teach at, that their straps there are so short you can't do a lot with it. But with a longer strap, especially if you're on the taller side, you definitely want to go for the longest strap that is available without being too silly about it. Now, what are the ways to use it? In class, we use this to kind of move through the range of movement in the shoulders and to create the discipline in the muscle power in the arms too. So this is what we do pretty often. This is like using the blocks, right? To hug the block between your palms to turn on the muscles and working through the range. But with the strap, you can work through the range even more. So I would just hold on to the strap, pull on both sides, because when I pull on both sides, it will turn on all the muscles, especially the muscles that protect my rotator cuffs here. I don't want to hurt. This is a very vulnerable joint here, the shoulder joints. So you want to really make sure your muscles are awake before you get your arms to do what you want them to do. So using this gives you the discipline. So I would, in class, we would go ahead inhaling, bringing your arm forward, and I want to watch my fist. I want to have the triceps face forward, so I would have my fist kind of turn in towards each other. So the higher you go up overhead, the more you want to turn and rotate the upper arm bones so the triceps are facing forward. I'm slightly sucked in from the armpits. I'm not stretching out from the armpit. Whatever is hollow in your body, they're designed to stay hollow. So you suck them back in. Here. Now let's say if we want to work through the entire range. So once I have it here, and I'm about to bring my arms back, I would still make sure I pull on the strap, and I would internally rotate the upper arm bone, like so, and bring it back. And I do my best to keep my arms straight, pull it back. It's quite intense. So what happens if you can't maintain the same distance and you get stuck, somehow stuck back there, somewhere back there, and you start to bend your elbows just to like work your way through. Don't do that because you'll get hurt. What you want to do then is, if you can't get through, no matter what you do, you start to spread your arms, your grip a little wider apart, keeping the arms straight. Still pulling on the strap, internally rotate your arm bones and bring them through. It feels really, really good. You don't have to go for the most intense. Even like this feels good. Okay, I can work it through this narrow, but I certainly sometimes enjoy this sort of nice wide distance grip and just bringing the arms over. It's very nice. It's a much gentler stretch. So we also sometimes use it, a lot of times we use it to create an extension of the arms. For instance, if I'm doing a seated forward fold, like this, right? And I don't want my hands always by my hips. You do want to use your hands as anchor, as leverage. So one of the ways is to have your hands by your hips to create that anchor, to create that a leverage. But sometimes maybe you want to start to walk your hands forward. When you start to walk your hands forward, if you're tight and you don't have the leverage, you start to do this again. This is where the strap comes in handy. Just lasso your feet in right across the ball of your feet. You see how my big toes are turned in towards me? This is not the way to do it. You want to have the big toe ball of the foot push into the strap, as if that you're standing flat on your feet with your toes flexing up towards you. And then I grab both sides of my strap. I turn the wrist up, making sure my shoulders are not pulled forward. I pull them back. And then flex through the hips, lengthening through the chest, through the spine. Not here. Not here. Okay? But use your strap well to create that nice opening on the front side of the body. So anytime you need to find support, a support system in opening up your body, especially when it has to do with incorporating the upper body and the lower body, you can always consider using a strap. What's another way? Oh, another way is in yoga, there's a lot of yoga postures that involves a clasp, a bind of some sort. And so sometimes we don't quite have that reach. This is where the strap will come in handy. So in this cow face pose, one arm will go up and the other arm will wrap around and you clasp your hands like so. Now let's say they can't quite reach each other. What do? You grab a strap and then you use the strap to help you create that connection, because once you have that connection, it's two actions coming together to create a pair of opposites. So once my hands clasp, once they touch each other and they clasp, we pull them away from each other. It's the same principle with the strap. Once you're able to grab the strap with your hands, then your leverage from here is to pull against the strap away from each other. That's going to give you that extension, expansion, and the stretch that we're looking for. Okay, we're not just laxing the hands that are grabbing the strap. You use that to create an action. Okay, so, with the strap, why are longer straps better? It's because sometimes there are postures that involves the whole body into the strap. So if you have a short strap and you're tall, there's no way you can participate in those sort of postures. But before I get to that, just one more thing really, is whether you're standing or sitting, if you can't reach the foot for some of the postures like this, you can always use a strap. You can always use a strap as an extension, okay, of your arms. Okay, so going to the postures that involve the whole body is when we have to create a loop with the strap. So I'm creating a loop here. Hopefully you all know how to use the buckle here It's one, you slide one side through under both buckles, and then you flip and roll over one buckle, slide it under through the other buckle. That's how you do it. Then it's easily adjustable. Okay, so the one that involves the whole body would look something like this. So I just made a loop. This loop might be too small for me, but I can always adjust it once I'm on the floor. So I wear it like a t-shirt. And I would put that t-shirt right below my armpits. Then I would lie down. Once I lie down here, this is a good time for me to kind of just make sure that the straps are right below my shoulders and not sliding down the back. You do not want the strap to slide down below your shoulder blades because you don't want to stress out your spine. Keep it on the shoulder blades. Now I can, this is one of the ways we can use it. I press my foot into the strap and pull up, okay? And get it a little looser. And watch my hip. I use the strap as my support system, as my leverage, so that it helps me not to just engage my whole leg, because my foot is pushing into the strap, but it is also providing a support system. Because later on when we open the leg out to the side, you'll know why you need that support system. So this hip needs to engage or anchor away from my shoulder, so this side of the waist stays long. Then I'm going to externally rotate the thigh, so now my toes are pointing out, and slide my foot down. And ladies, make sure your strap is right on the upper part of your chest. Otherwise, pushing into your boobs would just not be pleasant. Good. So this is what I meant earlier when I said you could really appreciate the support system without losing the pose. You don't want to do this pose and drop it down. Then your strap is too loose. Okay? And if you're flexible, of course, you don't need the strap, because what you do is you just do this. And you draw the sit bones towards each other. You make sure that this pose is very active. I'm not going to kind of do this. This is not a good pose. It's by dropping the foot and pivoting this left hip up. Okay, so that's another way to do it. Okay, so let's say I want to do an inversion and I want to have some support. Most of you need a longer strap. I just put my feet up here. Make sure the pelvis does not roll up like this. You press it down. Okay? And I kind of just release. I'm pushing my foot into the strap to keep my legs engaged. This way, the blood will still circulate throughout my whole body. If I keep my legs loosey-goosey and my feet are just like hanging loose, then you're not creating a good circulation system throughout the body, and that'd just be too much dumping to your upper body from the lower body. Okay, so that's one way. And another thing that we do with the strap is keeping the feet in the strap. We would put the strap right above the ears here, and your head would just, the weight of your head would just drop into your strap. This allows you, and my legs are carrying the weight of my head. I'm not using my neck to support my head. I'm completely relaxed here. And so this helps you to release, not only release tension from the back of the neck, but let's say you're tight in the shoulders and the neck, this is a good stretch. I know some of the yogis really like this pose. And then to get out of it, grab onto two sides of the strap, remove the strap, rest your head down, and then you can come down. Okay, that's about all I want to get into with some of the ways I use the strap. There's definitely a lot more ways, but I do want to just make a short video. I tend to overextend things. Okay, so another thing that I introduced before, and I'm not going to spend much time on it because I don't think most of you are likely to get it, but this is a diving ring for the pool. So you can go to any sort of swim stores, swimming pool stores, and find these things. This is what kids throw in the swimming pool, and they dive under to collect the rings. That's that. And so what are the ways that you can use this? This is also like using the strap. Okay, but this is more for more experienced yogis who are also pretty flexible. But they're not so flexible to the point where they could actually grab their foot behind them. Then you would use the little ring. Instead of dealing with a strap and adjusting it, you kind of know, okay, I have this to grab onto. So I'm not so warmed up yet here, but let me quickly demonstrate what I mean. So let's say we're in a pigeon pose like this. We're in a pigeon pose. And then I sit up into pigeon. I bend my knee. And I can't quite reach the foot. I can't quite reach the foot. Or I can't get the foot here into my elbow to sit up tall. Then I would grab onto a ring like this. And you can kind of loop it through too. Kind of just hold it here. Like so. So you push the foot into the ring and the arm will pull back on the ring. So that sort of opposite action of this pair really helps you to open up the hip flexor on the right side here. Okay, so like when I'm warmed up in my practice, because I don't go into really deep back bends, I use this. Like so for that pose, I would bend the knee, go back and grab my feet. But I used to do that when I was younger. I don't do that anymore. It's just too intense for my body, and I don't think it helps me in my health. So, but I still like to create a little bit more expansion in the front body. Then I would just loop the ring around my foot, and then I grab it that way. Okay, so it would be like this, and I grab it that way. So that's the ring. What are other ways? Oh, you could do this too. You know, it's like, you could just hold on to it. Basically, you could work it like you're working at your strap. However you do it. Okay? Like that. Or a bind. Let's say you're doing a bind and you can't quite reach and you don't want to deal with your strap. You could pull on it. Like if you're really tight, you would really appreciate having something, not really tight, but somewhat tight. Appreciate something like that. Okay, so what's next? Okay, so this is like a, gosh, I forgot what you call this. All of a sudden I'm drawing a blank. It's just, I use it. You see how this isn't flat? It's not flat like the block. So I use it to work on balance because it rocks back and forth. That's one of the ways I would do it. So maybe I would be doing this. Like here. I could push into it. Or how else do I? Oh, I can even hug it with between my legs. And because this isn't flat like a rock, like a block and it rocks, I can use it for a spinal extension, and it kind of yields to your back. Depends on how you distribute your weight on this. I like the pillow. And you can kind of just rest here. Because the bottom part has that tilt, this end part does not poke into your spine. I don't use these much anymore. How else do I use it? Oh, I can't think of other ways right now to use it. But it's primarily for doing back bends, like soft back bends. So that's that. My daughter's dog chewed up on all this, which sucks. But, alright. And here, this is a yoga wheel. This kind of came into the scene, I think, about 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And I got it about 2 or 3 years ago. It's cork on the outside. I like cork because not only is it sustainable, it gives you a nice sort of texture to work with. Texture to the skin to work with. I got a pretty narrow wheel. There are wider ones out there, which I recommend for most people. I got this narrow one because I like the challenge of it. Now, one of the most obvious ways to use a wheel is, again, to do the heart opening, like so. So I set it on my back, and then I come up, and I don't like to ever drop my head down like a right foot, and then I can kind of just roll on it. It gives you a pretty good back massage. So you could just do that. And it also gives you a supported tabletop. You could do a supported tabletop and kind of just roll on it because you're supported on it to help you open up the chest. So that's one way. And again, it's like you can also rest your head here and kind of just hang out here. Reach, interlace your fingers, roll the shoulders down, and kind of press the legs down here, arms down. So this is something that you can use the wheel for. What I really like to use it for is to work on my balance and to work on my abdominals, like so. So I'll go into a plank, and I would set my legs on the wheel, and I slowly roll it in, press it out, roll it in, press it out, roll it in, press it out, roll it in, press it out. Okay, so that's one way you could use it. It's harder on mine because it's narrow. Again, it'd be really fun if you got a bigger one and you can work that way. Let's say if you want to do a high lunge and you want a little bit of support, or even a semi low lunge to high lunge, you could do it like this. You really push your thigh into the wheel. It helps you to activate the back leg. And you could just be here. the whole back leg is nice and engaged. Because you're engaging so much, you're also, and the fact that you're pushing into the wheel, you're also helping your hip flexors stretch. So that's another way you could do it. This is fun. So if I'm standing here straight, I put my foot like this and I slide it out, bending the knee. It's a good stretch. And then you come back up and then pull it back out. Come back up, pull it back up into your chair and squeeze. And it feels really good. It helps you to open up the inner thighs. Okay, so you could also do this. Like you're in a straddle. And push forward. And pull back. Push forward. Pull back. Push forward. And back. And then, you can lower it all the way. Have some support pushing against, instead of pushing against the floor, which might drop your head down a little bit too much, you push into your wheel, keeping your spine and your neck aligned. So that's another way. Again, there's quite a few ways you could use this for. If you get a wider one, you could use this to work on your headstands, arm balances, which I won't go into today because it's not the point to teach you a class using the yoga wheel. Okay. Last but not last, but one of the most important things in terms of yoga gear, props, would be the yoga mat. And as you can see, or most of you know, I only use the Jade mat, the Jade yoga mat. This particular product line is called the Harmony line, and it's the only kind of yoga mat that I use. Over about 15 years ago, I've tried a lot of yoga mats, and within the last 15 years, I have seen people use various mats, but I've always stayed true and committed to my Jade yoga mat. It gives you a really good grip, which is important because it helps to cultivate the muscles in your hands, in the forearms, to help you protect the wrist as you cultivate strength. It's got the right density, right? It's not so foamy, it's not so thick, because any foamy yoga mats or thick yoga mats, some people bring Pilates mats to my yoga classes, and it's like, no, you can't use that. Because those mats, you can't properly distribute weight on something that's soft and be able to have control over the protection of your joints, your wrists, and your weight distribution. So I'm not for that. This Jade mat is also made from real rubber. And for every mat you buy, I think they plant a tree, something like that. So I've been using Jade mats for over 15 years, very committed. And I'm not an affiliate. I just keep buying their mats. Okay, so that's the Jade mat. I would put all the links here on the bottom. And this is little yogi balls. I use these yogi balls sometimes. I should use them more, but to help me work through muscles. Like when you buy the yogi balls, they would come in this kind of pocket like this. So it's perfect that they're in a pocket because you can lie down and put them on the back side of the neck and kind of just roll up and down or wiggle from side to side to help you release tension from your neck. Okay, so like so. Put this down, put it on the back side of my head, and I can kind of just do little sort of pivot up and down a little bit. And same thing. It feels really good. And then you can also put it down here between your shoulder blades. If you're tight there in the shoulder blades. And then you kind of wiggle. Oh. Make sure your hair's out of the way. You kind of just work through any tight spots. Okay. There's a ton of videos on YouTube on how to use the yoga balls here. I like to target my pressure points. And over here, if you take the yoga ball out, it has a really good texture because this texture is designed to work with bare skin. It grips your skin just enough to create a nice action into the muscles and the pressure points. And so if you're tight across the shoulders, you can kind of just roll it out like this. Like self-care. Really, really, really amazing. Okay? And also like along the side, you can lie down on the floor and just kind of roll on it. So these are the yoga balls that I got also. I think I got it from Amazon as well. So all the links will be provided. Last but not least is my meditation cushion. I brought it just because I want to show off. I got this set, I splurged, and I got this set about 1.5 years ago. I just needed some color in my, some patterns in my little home yoga room. And so I got this. This is, you sit on it, you can sit on it, and this could be on the back side giving you just enough support, or you can sit on the bolster and with your legs like so to give you support. And with the bolster, there are so many ways you can use the bolster on your mat. Like if you're feeling stressed out and you want to come home, you could just rest on your bolster like so. And just holding on to something, hugging something will help you release a lot of the tension that you have been holding on to all day. And you turn your head one side. That helps you to release and stretch the muscles on the bottom side. And then you just alternate. Go to the other side. So that's really, really good. One thing before I end this video, which is already way too long, is you can use the bolster to go into a nice heart-opening posture at the end of class. So I would set it up like so. This one, second height. This one maybe first height, or you can have it like this and this one second height. Okay, it's not one at the highest, the other one at the lowest. They're just one notch in between. Then I would put my bolster up here like that. Then I would sit in front of the bolster and then rest into it. And sometimes you might think it's a little too high, in which case you can lower the top block. And you can rest here in a butterfly pose to open up the hips, or just straddle into it. Okay, so this is really comfortable. Another way to use the bolster, I love this bolster. It's just so gorgeous. I think if you love yoga so much, you want the things also in your little yoga space to also be something that brings joy. And just like this pattern and the way it's done so beautifully, and there's a little tassel. It came with a card with the sweetest message. It really helps to add to your yoga experience. Okay, so another way to use the bolster would be at the end of your practice. You could just have the bolster pressed up against you, and then you kind of just rest and drape one leg over it. Again, this sort of hugging, resting really helps to calm your nervous system. Okay, I think that's enough. I hope that's enough. I hope this video turns out, because I finally took out my DSR or DRL, something, digital camera to videotape this. We'll see how it comes out. Okay. I hope you found that helpful, useful. I'll see you soon. Bye.